Simon Seeff. I've had multiple careers, from being a medical doctor, an emergency medical doctor, and a professional sportsman at one point. But right now, the best way that I can describe myself is that I'm an explorer of the creative process from the inside out, and I use photography and filmmaking as my vehicle to bring that content to the public. So a lot of people try and tell me I'm a photographer, and for some reason it triggers me and I say no. But I did a lot of photographs of a lot of early artists, did hundreds of album covers, hundreds of sessions. I know this is long, but and then what I did with my career, starting in New York, in being a rock and roll photographer, moved over to shooting actors and directors and writers, and ultimately scientists and mavericks like Steve Jobs and Sir Francis Crick, who discovers the double helix. So basically what I do is I work with innovative creators to discover the archetypal pattern of what the creative process is. And that's what I'm doing now, is to bring that archetypal pattern out for people to use as a navigation system for themselves to empower their own creativity. So it's switched from myself and my career and aren't I a wonderful photographer, filmmaker, to how can we empower people's creativity.
So can you nutshell what the creative pattern is? How would you express that?
Yeah, so one of the things that I found early when I was starting to shoot, every time I started a session, I found myself going through anxiety and fear. And it was very clear that that meant I shouldn't be an artist and there's something wrong with me. And the artist looks so confident. And so I started working on, well, why am I feeling the fear? And over a number of years realized that fear is one of the stages of the creative process. That if you are courageous enough to step into your own unknown, into the uncertainty, into a dimension where all possibility exists, that's what exists in the unknown. By nature, it would bring up fear in people. So in fact, fear, rather than being a message that this is not something I'm suited to, was actually saying, you are at the edge of your unknown, this is exactly where you need to go, be courageous enough to go down that road. So it's a little long to describe what actually happened. What I discovered, that my sessions went through the initiation phase, get started, then I would go into fear and anxiety, and then I would work through the fear and then get into the zone with the artist, develop an intimate relationship, and then towards the end, they trusted me enough for me to challenge them to go to places that they hadn't been before. So once I understood that there were stages to my creative process, I could go in there with much more confidence. But later on, I discovered that anything in movement, that is the process of change, requires 7 steps. And so I went in working with artists in a collaborative way and ultimately discovered one of the archetypes that I'm about to bring out by the end of this year, called the 7 stages of the creative process. It's akin to the hero's journey, a little different because it's about innovative creativity, but there are a bunch of other archetypes. One is called the paradigm shift. How do we take the old domination paradigm and move into the dominion, collaborative paradigm that is really where we're going now. Specifically this group, this is a fascinating group who know that the future is creating the present against the backdrop of the past. You are not created by your past, but by the future. So that's succinct for me.
We love it. That's a good segue into just your thoughts about this festival, about Illuminate. What does Illuminate mean to you?
Well, you know, we are multidimensional consciousnesses, and we basically got caught in ego, male chauvinist domination paradigm that's been around for a number of thousands of years. And there is this crisis right now that's taking place where the world is splitting in two, and you're seeing the dominators, old masculine domination, project rival way of doing things, separating from what is the potential of a new world. And the new world is not something you go out and find. It's something that out of our evolution, excuse me, but I won't take it, The new world is something we found, because what it is, it takes total personal responsibility to decide what story you want to write. So in terms of Illuminate, to me, that's really what a lot of what the creative process is. It actually goes, true innovative creativity is not a linear process. It goes in quantum leaps of revelation or illumination, where you suddenly have that aha moment. Now I understand something that was tying me up in knots, and suddenly I feel free. So, you know, I love even the typeface of your little logo.
What are your thoughts about conscious media and its ability to transform?
Well, there's an interesting thing, because it can be caught in a certain amount of, well, we're doing conscious work, so therefore we don't have to be masters of the medium. It's actually calling now for people who want to work on this dimension of how can I create product that expands people. You know, it works at the higher reaches of who we are, rather than the lower reaches of human consciousness, which is 90% of what you see out there in the media. But you cannot, the people that are working in the media have developed a level of skill and a level of technological artistry. So the people now that have said, you know, I really want to create a project which is about integrity and the heart and is true and not just about making money. I've been a professional from the time I arrived in the States, going through graphic design and designing hundreds of album covers when album covers were an art form, and shooting photography, and then moving into filmmaking. And then I became a very successful commercial director, where I shot commercials for Apple and, you know, Glaxo Wellcome and car stuff like that. And it's a wonderful high-paid film school. And so I learned enough technology to know that if I move into doing these, which I am, move into this arena where I want to do projects that I think are expansive rather than diminishing of who we are as human beings, I need to make sure that the work that I do is as technically and performance-wise as good as anything out there. So I think that's the challenge, because there are a lot of people who want to do films, but they also, it's not enough to say, hey, my whole approach is because I'm, you know, I want to bring in the expanded new reality. That's beautiful. I would never say to someone, don't get started on your project, but you really want to bring the technical quality up, so that when it comes down to where we want to go with the industry, they look at it and say, this is a fantastic film. It's crafted well, it's filmed well, it's acted well, and there's an authenticity about the messaging that, you know, is not kind of embarrassing. When I say embarrassing, there is a way that what I call slipping the contraband across the border. People are waking up from the old paradigm, and they're hungry and they're thirsty, and they need something, but they don't want to say it. And they definitely don't want to be told what they need. So for me, the approach is, how can I, as an artist, express my voice out in the world and work in collaboration with other creators, so that we have a collective creative way of expressing things. And people will learn through their experience of what we're doing, rather than what I saw in the early days of people. They brought out what they said were new age films, but they were a little preachy, or rather kind of sloppy in terms of the creative process.
And people are getting better.
I'm going to find out starting shortly.
I'm going to open it up. There's other people here that want to ask questions. Oh, yes.
So, as a writer and filmmaker, you're talking about embracing fear, and that really resonated with me, because this festival is wonderful. It's very positive. It's very uplifting. It's great, but there are human emotions that are not great and not fun, fear being one of them. And I'm wondering if you can speak to, you were able to take fear and wield it and use it to create content, or be vulnerable, or to be more human. Is there a place for sadness or anger or grief? Or...
Okay, every emotion that we have is a part of the essence of what makes us conscious. So emotions are real. They have actually, when you die, you may leave your money behind, but you'll take your emotional patterning with you into work that you need to do on other dimensions. So they all have light within them and substance. The combination of the light is defined as masculine energy, not masculine gender. Substance is the feeling of it. So what happens is if you're feeling fear, or you're feeling hurt, or you're feeling shame, if you are courageous enough to go into that emotion and say, what is the message in there? Why is it triggering me? Because every emotion, we live in a duality, a world of duality. Everything has a positive, negative face. Now, negative doesn't mean bad. It may mean that it might constrict your freedom. So if you take fear on the low end, the constricting end, fear can be paralyzing. On the high end, fear is the most powerful compass that gives you massive amount of information. Where do I need to go? Should I go down this road? In fact, if I'm avoiding stepping into my own uncertainty, that's in fact, as a creator, I want to discover something I don't know. So it doesn't make sense just to go, well, I'm going to go where it's comfortable. Fear will say, okay, you're uncomfortable there, what's the message? It might be, don't go there, there's someone going to mug you on that street, so don't go down that road. But as artists, when the fear comes up, it is a compass and a guidance system, and it absolutely is a powerhouse. It is a fuel for innovative creativity. So it's about looking at fear as this range across a continuum. And it's also basically, as I was mentioning earlier today, what fear is the anticipation of loss. As you know, in relationships, when the human being separates from the oneness, the first fear is, oh my God, I'm losing the love. And then it gets down step, down step, down step. So each of us have our own pattern of, each of us have our own pattern of fear. So for some people, it might be fear of humiliation, or fear of being laughed at, or fear of not being good enough, or fear of I'll make a big mistake and I'll lose my relationship. So it's very important that fear is a kind of a container, and within the container, we each, in our own patterning from childhood, we have them all, but we have specific fears that, again, I may just go very quickly. When you think of relationships, there are 4 core fears that come up. One, I could be rejected. I could be humiliated. I could be abandoned. I could be imprisoned. So you want to walk by? No, it's all right.
It'll be swarmed by bugs.
This is very detailed, but the point is that fear is an absolutely core energy to go into and actually take dominion of it and use it for its purpose, and then release the part that freezes animals, people, that suddenly get frozen by fear. So I meet a lot of people who 5 years ago, I've got this incredible film, I've written this script, and I'm making my film. And I go, fabulous, great, I'm so excited. And 4 years later, I meet them and they say, I've got this incredible film and I've got this great script. And I know what's happening in terms of my 7-step dynamic. They came up with an idea, a vision that was the awakening of their dream, and they've now gone into the fear and they're imprisoned. And so they are paralyzed at that second stage. And they've got to free themselves. They've got to go in and do the resolving, to disengage from the fear and the emotions and fears that imprison you, and on the other side engage your power, strength, and talent. So there's a lot of incredible work that can free artists who start getting caught in the fear becomes too big, but it doesn't mean that you have to try and push it away or deny it, because you'll stick it into your body and get cancer. That's one of the things that wasn't meant to be part of the creative process, but it happens.
It's 6:45. 6:45.
So I guess we should probably go into the theater and get our seats. We could talk to you all day.
I know, this
Really,
is amazing.
truly.
Totally,
Thank you.
really. Do you want to say just really quickly about what you plan to do with your internet channel? And
Yes, so what's happening is I have a 40-year body of work that's been building and building and building. And one of the reasons I didn't put it out, I've had a couple of deals down the road. I discovered the people who were doing the deals with me were not in it for the same intentionality. They went, oh, he's got all these great artists, so we can just, we can use the artist as a way to make loads of money. That's okay. I'm not against that. I did that as a way for me to slip the metaphysical truths that are real, that need to mature. If I can show that in action with artists, if you see the creative process and you see, for instance, an Alicia Keys suddenly remembering an entire song in the catch of a breath, what's very clear is that she's not working in time-space. She's working in a hyperdimension beyond time-space. Now, if I talk about that when they watch that little video, I can talk about that. If I talk about that without the video, they go, oh, he's some, wonk off in his head, and what the fuck does he know, So the whole point is that I've got a body of work of hundreds and hundreds of major artists in the act of creation. And everything that I'm talking to you about now, and you see the stages of them going through their visioning and their fear and their resolution and their turning points. So the idea is to show this in action. And so the website that I'm building now is a journey game. The idea is to take people on a journey using the artists that I've worked with as their mentors. And the game it's not a win-lose game, it's a win-win game. The game is, what is your current paradigm, your old paradigm, and the goal, the destination is to find the new paradigm, where you are not trying to dominate through control, but you move from domination to dominion, where you know that you are the creator of your own reality, you write your own story, and it is through creativity that you write your story, and it is through creativity that you express yourself in the world and express your love and bring about change, which is healing.
Very.